Welcome to Fortitude and Flow, the podcast, Sandie.
Thank you, and thank you for having me here.
Very nice to have you here. It's going to be very interesting today. I can already feel I'm going to learn a lot today.
I hope so.
So, we're going to talk about hypnotherapy.
We are. We're going to talk about hypnosis, hypnotherapy, and clinical hypnotherapy. That's what I do. I am a clinical hypnotherapist and a psychotherapist, and I'm actually the registered teacher for clinical hypnotherapy for Andalusia and Gibraltar. But we'll go into that a little bit later on because that's not my first experience of hypnosis.
We're going to go back to where it all started then. So, what was your first experience when it comes to hypnotherapy?
Well, my very first experience was being on a stage show, being a volunteer. I'd gone for a night out with my girlfriends back where my hometown is, near Newcastle in England, and we went to see a stage hypnotist show, a comedy show. My very best friend was always very easily led. Anything that we got into, any trouble we got into, and I said, "Oh, let's do this." She'd always go, "Oh, okay." So I thought, I'll say to her, "Let's volunteer," because I'm a bit of a control freak. And I thought, if I say to her, "Let's volunteer," we'll get up. And then I'll get sent back down because obviously I won't be able to be hypnotized because I'm really strong-willed. And I can film her or take photographs of her up on stage. That was the plan. Obviously, I didn't know anything about hypnosis then, and I didn't think that when you are really strong-willed, you would actually go so well into hypnosis, but you do. So we got up on a stage show, and an hour later, I opened my eyes, and I'm still sitting on stage, and she was in the audience laughing like mad with my little photo camera in her hand. That was my very first experience, and I found it strange, but fun. I found that I had a few blanks of memory, which I found a bit strange. But then I was trying to tell people that I was seeing things that I hadn't seen. One of the gigs they'd done was put glasses on me and told me I could see everybody in the audience in their underwear. It's a standard thing that they do on a stage show. But I could see them in their underwear. And I remember saying to people, "Well, you've got a red bra on." And they're going, "Well, yes, I have, but you could not have seen that." But years later, obviously what it might be is I knew this girl and I might have seen a little flash of a bra strap earlier on. Subconsciously, my mind's recorded that she's got a red bra on, so that when the hypnotist has made that suggestion, then for me, it was very real. So that was my very first experience of hypnosis.
When was this?
Oh my goodness. I don't know what the year would have been. I would have been a lot younger than I am now. I would have been in my early 20s.
All right.
Okay, we'll just hold it there. Okay, many, many, many years ago. Skip forward a couple of years on from that, and again, same girlfriends, out for a night out. There's a themes happening here, I think. I went to a nightclub. And I was dancing with my friends, and I saw this really tall, handsome man walk in. And every bone in my body just went, "He's mine." And I did something I've never done before in my life. I walked off the dance floor, and he was just picking his very first pint off the bar. And I took that pint out of his hand, put it down, looked at him, and just went, "Dance with me." Years later, he confessed he was terrified. Absolutely terrified. He thought he was waiting for some big husband to come and punch him one. But it was just one of those moments. I just knew. And I dragged him onto the dance floor. The rest is history. Over 30 years later, we are still very much together.
That's very good.
It's very, very good. But that was that night when, after the dancing and the music stops and you're just doing a talk and you're deciding whether to swap phone numbers. And I asked him what he did. And he said, "I'm a comedy stage hypnotist." And I think I did a big swallow, big roll of eyes, thinking, "Oh, that's a fib." I mean, how many of those do you bump into in a nightclub ever?
Probably never.
Never, right? And in that same nightclub, I'd met people who said they flew for the Red Arrows, or they were racing car drivers or footballers. So I always took it a little bit of a pinch of salt. So when he said about being a hypnotist, I just thought, oh, he's probably on the dole. It's a shame because I really fancy him. And he'd given me his phone number. It took me a couple of weeks to pluck up enough courage and to go and borrow a book out the library on hypnosis. So I could just read up a little bit about what it was. And then to just give him a ring. You know, hi, it's me. You met me in the nightclub. And have a little chat. And that ended up with us arranging for our first date. Sideline, that was a karaoke.
That's good.
For anybody who knows me or doesn't know me, I do like to dabble a little bit in karaoke as fun.
You love singing, yes?
Yeah, I enjoy it. And we went to a karaoke, and whilst he was in the gents, I put my name down for a couple of songs. And when he came back, because it was a little bit of a rough pub we were in, but I did say to him, don't leave me. You can put your fingers in your ears, but don't leave me on my own. Don't walk out and leave me. And he never has. I sang songs to him and he just went, oh, you can sing as well.
That's very nice.
So that's kind of the start of it. Obviously, you know, over a couple of years we got together and we started expecting our very first child. I had 2 previous children, but this was our first child. And I gave up my full-time job when I was pregnant. But I was sitting twiddling my thumbs at home, you know, twiddling my thumbs. And Stuart was doing the stage show and he was going off around to local bars, clubs, pubs, doing the stage show. And I was listening to him on the phone one day whilst he was selling the show to a new venue. And I said to him, tell you what, you feed the baby, let me do that, because I think I have a little bit of an easier job, because it's easier to tell somebody how good somebody else is. You know, watch this, it's funny, it's brilliant, rather than having to do it yourself and go, oh, I'm very good. So that's kind of how it started. I picked up the phone and I started selling Stuart's stage show into different places. But then I thought to myself, well, he's far too good for some of these places. They were like little clubs, little pubs, and where else do hypnotists perform? And Stuart said to me, well, they perform in universities all over the country, doing freshers, or sometimes in Cambridge or Oxford doing their balls. So I said, right. So we got a copy of a thing called a white book, which has every university listed in it with phone numbers and fax numbers in those days for the people that organise this kind of thing. And I just picked up the phone and started making phone calls. And the first university that let us through their door was Sunderland University. It was a local one. And we went and he did the show. And big old video cameras in those days, you know, with the proper big tapes, showing my age. I filmed it. I filmed him doing the show, and it was brilliant. There were 600 students there. They had a great big sound system on the stage. He was on fire. You know, he was just so funny the whole time. It was a brilliant show. And I thought, right, I took the master copy of this video and I knocked it down to, I think it was 12 minutes, the highlights. And then I ran off a load of copies and I sent them off to all the other universities and said, with a note, a letter in saying, watch this, it's only 12 minutes, grab a coffee, you really need to see this, because this will, you know, a picture or a moving picture paints 1,000 words that I could say on the phone. But then I wasn't getting the phone ringing, I wasn't getting the response I wanted. So I didn't really know what was going on, so I rang 1 or 2 of them and they said, oh, I haven't watched it yet, I haven't had time to watch it yet. It's sitting on my desk, but I haven't watched it. So I started to wonder how I could get them to watch it. So I started sending them faxes. You could send a fax off your computer in those days, and they had a proper fax machine, and they would come in the morning and find their fax machine was empty because there was loads and loads of faxes from me going, just watch it, just watch it, just watch it. So that was one way that I got some of the student people that were booking to watch. And the minute they watched it, they were ringing us and they were booking the show. And all of a sudden, Stuart was one of the top comedy hypnosis shows on the university circuit. So we were doing a lot of travelling. We travelled to different countries. We travelled to Egypt to do some shows.
That as well?
Yeah. So it became a thing over a few years. And then we had baby number 2. So that's actually 4 kids we had. So we had baby number 2. Both of those 2 babies, by the way, if you want, we'll track back at the end, were born through hypnosis. We did hypnobirthing. The 29-year-old baby, he's one of the first hypno babes. He's certainly the first baby born to 2 hypnotherapists.
Wow.
But we can track back on that one. So yeah, the show went on, and we were traveling, and it was lovely. But having to either travel with a small family or having to leave the family with people looking after them wasn't a thing. But Stuart kind of needed me with him. I was sort of his glamorous assistant, or sometimes his sound engineer, or sometimes it's just the barrier between him and people. As you do when you're a bit of a celebrity, you need someone just to get in between the two. So we got an offer to go and work in Menorca. But it wasn't just 1 or 2 shows. It was a 7-month season of shows. And they would be doing like 4 shows or 5 shows a week, but staying there for 7 months. So the children were quite small at this point, the 2 youngest ones. And we worked out, okay, we get somebody in to look after the bigger ones because they're at high school. We take the little ones, we take a nanny, and we did it. The bigger children joined us in the summer holidays, so the whole family could be together. But we went and worked for 6 months in Menorca, all over a tiny little island, doing the shows all around. And we become quite well known because it is such a small island. To know that there's hypnotists on the island, they would come, maybe at a restaurant, and you could see the waiters would not look at Stuart. They wouldn't give him eye contact.
No.
And don't look in the hypnotist's eyes. They're really scary.
Okay. Oh, it's like that.
But he used to laugh and go, it's not me you've got to worry about. So all this time behind the scenes, obviously, we've got, books and books and bookshelves full of NLP, hypnosis books, all the stuff to do with that. And I've picked this up over the time and gone, well, that just makes sense. Well, that's just normal. Well, that's just what we do. So we did the show for 2 years in Menorca, like 2 summer seasons, but then the youngest child and the next one up got to the stage where they had to be at school full time. And the school said, you can't have that time off. You can't take the children away for all those months, even though their education was probably going to be better.
Yeah, exactly. Probably.
That was around about the time we decided to move to Spain. So that was 20 and a half years ago.
20 years ago.
Yeah, so we decided that that's it. We are moving lock, stock and barrel, selling the house, moving to Spain. If Stuart needs to be at a show anywhere in the world, Malaga Airport.
Yeah, it's a very central place to be.
Yeah, and it means that I could stay where it was warm, because being up near Newcastle is quite a cold place. So I could still be where it's warm, and he could jet off to wherever he needed to be, and we would raise our family here, which is what we did. I did studying to be a drama teacher, doing drama therapy with kids, using their creativity was the key to everything. These were kids that maybe couldn't give eye contact, were so shy, and their parents would bring them, and we'd do lots and lots of drama games, lots of playing, lots of role play. If you tell the quietest child that they are now the king.
Yeah, that could definitely help.
Yeah.
With confidence.
It really does. And we called the group the Family of Sound. And we started putting on just little shows so the kids could learn something and actually perform. Just started off to their parents and their friends and things. Eventually, Stuart said to me I should have called it Frankensteins, because he said, you took all these shy little kids and you turned them into divas and monsters.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's sort of how it started. The group grew and grew and grew until they wanted to do bigger shows, proper shows. And this is where my talent for writing really came out. I love writing. I've always liked writing children's stories, adventure stories, imagination things. And I started writing pantomimes. Now, you give me a blank look.
Pantomimes. Yeah, you need to explain. I don't know what it is.
A pantomime is a very English thing. It's a traditional Christmas play with lots of colourful characters. And it's normally based around a fairy story, Snow White or Cinderella or something, performed on stage. But the prince could be a girl, just dressed,
yes.
but dressed as a boy. But the prince could be a girl. There's always a baddie. So there might be a wicked witch or an evil wizard, but there's always a baddie in the show. There's always a magical good person, maybe a genie or a fairy godmother. And there's always generally a princess. That's kind of what it is. But it's a comedy show. There's always lots of audience interaction. With a pantomime, there are certain lines that when you are a pantomime goer, you understand. And there'll always be a line where someone's interacting with the audience and they're saying, I've lost something, or I've lost a person, I don't know where they are. And that person's come onto stage and is standing behind them. And the audience will shout out, they're behind you. And of course, the person standing is trying to pretend they don't know. They're where? They're where? And the person moves with them behind. There's classic things like this in pantomimes. It's a very interactive show for children, for grown-ups alike. I grew up watching pantomimes, and I grew up in pantomimes. I used to belong to a theatre group when I was a child, and I love the whole thing about theatre, costumes, sequins. So when we were deciding what to do with the children's drama group, it's like, well, let's do a pantomime. So I wrote my version of Cinderella with, different characters. We had Zipper instead of Buttons and little house elf, but it was really, really good. And the trouble was, it was so good that we started doing it at different theatres. We were doing all of this for charity because we wanted to make it affordable so mums could bring a whole host of kids, but we also wanted to make it for something. So we started supporting Cadecca, which is the hospice charity in Benalmadena. And so we were doing these pantomimes all over the place, and the press got a hold of it. And of course, it's very colourful photographs. It's a great story. And they were talking to me afterwards, and they said, what's next? You've got all these children. What are you going to do next? And one of my best friends was kicking me under the table going, don't say it. Because she says, the minute I say I'm going to do something,
then you do it.
It's me. I just do it. And I said, oh, lots of kids. We could do Oliver with a twist. And that was it. That's what then became, it was in the papers that our next was we were doing Oliver with a twist, and we were holding auditions for more kids. And it just grew. And it was great fun. And like I said, I love singing. I played Nancy in that show. And my youngest son, Alex, was 9, nearly 10 at the time. He played Oliver. So it was lovely. I actually got to sing with my youngest son just as his voice was starting to break.
Oh, that's really cool.
He's actually still a singer. I would just say, hello, Alex, if you ever get to watch this. See, Mummy's on the air too. So my son's a singer, guitarist, player, I think the youngest one. So that was my story doing drama therapy. From that, I got asked by a school, a private school, bilingual, if I would go and work in their school and if I would do drama after school classes with them. And then that led to, well, actually, we like your accent. We'd like you to be a support teacher, talking English in the classrooms. So, okay, I can talk English, that's fine.
Yes.
I'm good at art, I'm good at music, so I can help out with those lessons. And so that's kind of what I did for a few years. The classes grew, the number of children in each class grew, and there were some children in the classrooms who were showing symptoms, signs, behaviour problems or issues. I'm not going to say they were problems, but it's probably what people call ADHD nowadays. They haven't got the same focus or attention to sit in a traditional classroom and learn a traditional way. Telling a child to sit down or be quiet is not going to work.
It's very boring as well, actually.
It is. Am I sensing something here? Did you not enjoy your school very much?
Me? No, I did not. I could not sit there. I was bored. Very bored. Yeah. It's not for everyone. It's not the normal way of doing school system and stuff.
It is, exactly. And you have the kids that are high achievers. Like you say, they get really bored and they felt like they're being held back. And so because of that, they'll be disruptive. So I was wondering how I could help the kids with this. They had a psychologist at the school, but she only spoke Spanish, and half the kids there were English, a bilingual school. And she was sort of asking me, how we can do this in English. And I was thinking, well, I don't know. I know what I'm doing with the kids in the class and how I'm trying to change my classroom behaviour to fit in with the kids. And then Stuart spotted an advert. Come and learn hypnotherapy, clinical hypnotherapy. And it mentioned children in this advert. And I thought, well, and it was a weekend. Go for a weekend and literally dip your toe in the water, see if you enjoy it. And I remember saying to him, oh, I don't really want to work as a therapist. I don't really want to be in a room with people with all these problems who'll be crying, because I'm very empathetic. And I thought, they'll tell me their problem and I'll cry with them. I thought, how's that going to work? But I went to this free weekend, just open-minded, what's it all about? What could I learn? And I got hooked. I really got hooked by all the things it could do. And we talked about all the things that I'd done about the hypnobirthing, because I'd already done that. I didn't really realize what it was that I'd done until
you're starting to study it.
Until I started to study it. And then it was like, there's a lot of the stuff I was doing naturally without realizing I was doing it. Stuart used to call Saturday morning the therapy room for years, because all my friends would come and we'd sit in the kitchen and we'd have coffee, and they would talk about their problems of the week or what's going on with their children or their partners or at work. And we would kind of like flesh it out, if you like, talk about it, and then they'd leave with big smiles on their face. And he said to me, Sandie, you've been therapizing people, your friends, your family for years. You just didn't know what the word was. So that was it. I was still working at the school full time, but I was training now in clinical hypnotherapy, and it takes just under a year.
To do it,
to complete your training. So during that time, obviously, I'm learning lots of techniques and little things I can do with the kids. I'm not going to say it was hypnosis, because it really wasn't. It was more like mind management techniques, little things to help them with their focus.
What could that be? What is a good example for that?
A good example of that. There's one of the children there that he constantly was drawing something.
Yes.
And not looking at the board and not listening to the teacher. So I drew out some little, I'm going to call them sort of mandalas, but in little strips. I drew out little mandalas, and I just sat down with him, because what he would do is after a while he'd just get up and start walking. So I would sit down with him while the teacher's got the thing on the board, and I had one and he had one, and then we would do colours, and I would copy his colours and he would copy my colours, and then I would just stop and look at what the teacher was explaining, and he was copycatting me. He was stopping and watching, and then get back to the colours. So I'd go back to the colours with him. So it became a pace and lead thing, so that more and more and more we could, it's fine to do that, and then it's fine to pay attention for 5 minutes, and then it's fine to do that again. So it was more about helping kids with like actually getting focused and using their interests. I'm going to steal a story of Stuart here. When he was at school, he was into drawing aircraft. He still loves aircraft, but he was drawing an aircraft, and a teacher made him put it away because they were studying maths. And I said, well, what I would have done is I'd have used you on that aircraft drawing to work out a mathematical equation.
Yeah, exactly.
How long, get your ruler, how long is the wing? If that one's 2 centimetres more than that, all of this. So that kind of thing. So I was doing this still at the school, but then the more I was doing the training and got to the end of the training, I thought, this is what I want to do. I don't want to be working 40 hours a week at a school. I enjoyed it at the time, but it wasn't my life goal.
Not your passion, totally. No?
No, it really wasn't my passion. And the more I learned about the mind and the brain, the more that's the field I really wanted to go into. And so that's when I started doing the full-time clinical hypnotherapy. People ask sometimes what's the difference. And when somebody says I'm a hypnotist or I'm a hypnotherapist, just to define the difference quickly, somebody like Stuart was on stage is a hypnotist. They hypnotize people to do stuff. They're not therapizing them for anything. It's sleep your Elvis, that kind of thing. A hypnotherapist is somebody who has studied, they've read books, they've seen videos, they've done self-study, they've maybe done a couple of online courses. A clinical hypnotherapist, to do that, you have to train in person. It's not something you can do on Zoom, not something you can do via a book. You have to do quite intense in-person training with your teacher and hopefully other students, because you're going to hypnotize each other all the time. And you are constantly either in hypnosis, doing hypnosis, being supervised whilst you're doing it, being given examples of it, so that by the time you come through your course, you've probably had every kind of therapy to do with hypnosis that there is going. Because you have to literally be able to live and breathe this to help somebody as quickly as we need to. So that's the difference. A clinical hypnotherapy has had real in-depth training. A hypnotist is on stage and a hypnotherapist has done lots of self-study, maybe got a certificate offline, that kind of thing, but they're not clinical trained. So that's the difference in that one.
I was wondering as well, you said when you did the drama hypnotherapy.
No, it's drama therapy.
Yeah, drama therapy. That's what I meant. Drama therapy. I read a book from Bessel van der Kolk, is one of the best trauma experts in the world. And they use that a lot for complex PTSD and traumas. But they did not, it's a long time since I read that book, but can you explain a little bit why does that help so much?
Why does it help? Well, all of traumas they start in the subconscious mind. They're held in the brain. You've probably read, I think you've read The Body Holds the Score. I think I heard you say that. Yes. Yeah, the body holds the score. But it all starts in the mind, whether you've got a cut, a bang, an injury to a hand or knee or anywhere else, those pain signals go to the brain. And it's the brain that holds that. And it's the same with anything that happens that we are holding on to, whether it's a limiting belief, whether it's a trauma. They're all within the mind. They're all within the brain. And if we can change, I'll go into it in a bit, what I call the wires and the lights. If we can change the way the lights are going, the pattern of the brain, then we can change how the body feels. It's the same with any kind of fear or phobia.
Yes.
It comes from somewhere. It doesn't necessarily come from a situation that somebody's been in. For example, somebody may have a fear of dogs. And I go, okay, have you ever, tell me about your experience with a dog. Have you ever been bitten by a dog? No. Have you ever been frightened by a dog? No. But you still have a phobia. And it's a true phobia because whenever they see a dog or it comes near them, the hairs on their arms will stand up. They'll get that tight feeling in their shoulders. They'll get the tightness here. Their body's going into fight.
It could be something that have happened that long time ago. They haven't really go in depth with.
It could be. It could be something that happened to them or something that happened to a relative.
Yeah, okay.
Generally a parent. What a lot of the phobias you'll find are inherited phobias. Doesn't mean it came through their cells and their blood. It means that they watch their parents. So if your parent is frightened of a dog for whatever reason, you will see that parent move away. Every time there's a dog, they will move you to the other side. Don't touch the dog. Dogs bite. And that's what you've been brought up to believe, that dogs are dangerous. And your system automatically believes it. Why would it not? Our parents told us it, so it must be true.
Yeah, it must be true.
Yeah. So our system goes into fight-flight mode automatically. But if we can change that thought, if we can say, well, not all dogs are dangerous, go back to your examples of, have you ever been near a dog? Has a dog ever bitten you? And the mind goes, well, no. So we can track that back. We can change that.
You can try to challenge that belief at least.
Yeah. And that's the same with all kinds of phobias. And with traumas are slightly different. But the people don't need to keep reliving the trauma. They don't need to hold that trauma in their body. Unless it's keeping them safe from something that is still happening, then they can let it go. Because it's held in the mind. And that's what we deal with.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Yes.
Were you going to ask me about lockdown and how it changed?
Yes. That's like, wow, time fly by very fast.
Is it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a while ago.
Oh, okay. Lockdown is a while ago, but it did change.
Changed a lot, probably.
Changed a lot for everybody.
Lockdown changed a lot for everyone. A lot of people got more frightened and more mental issues after that too. So what basically happened? Your experience with that?
Yeah, it changed for us in many ways. We had the clinic in Marbella at the time, the Lux Therapy Clinic, and it was going very, very well. We had lots of international clients, and it was all very, very good fun going across and helping people. And then we went into lockdown. And I still had clients, but they'd gone off to different parts of the world. They, jumped on planes back to their home countries. We all got locked down. And at that point, we didn't do this online. Hypnotherapy had to be done. You had to be in the room with somebody. And I had people ringing me up going, Sandie, I really need your help. I'm halfway through doing sessions with them. And so this is where we started doing lots of audios. At this point, we had maybe 2 or 3 audios that we, had on sale on the website. But I suddenly had clients that needed help. And I thought, well, they've been listening to my other audios, I'll make them so I do a phone call with them, find out exactly what was going on at that moment in time, and then script it and create an audio. And this is where I'm lucky, again, having Stuart with all of his expertise in the sound booths and making my voice sound more awesome than it does in real life. Lovely music in the background, bit of echo. But the clients loved it, and it was helping. And I thought, this is ridiculous, having to do these phone calls, having to do audio after audio. Why can't we do this on Zoom? Because obviously during lockdown, we all got to use Zoom more.
Yes,
I'd never heard of it till then.
Had to find a way around things.
Yeah. Well, I'd never heard of it, but I was using it to speak to family. I was doing my, at this point, my grandchildren's bedtime stories and things. Everything, we were doing Zoom a lot. And I thought, why can't we? And I contacted my regulating body, the GHR, which is what governs the hypnosis side in the UK and things. And I said, why can't we do this on Zoom? I said, my husband does NLP, and at the time he'd been using Skype and had American clients. And I went, he's doing it. Why can't we as clinical hypnotherapists do it? And they sent me back an email, and it was ridiculous. I looked at their reasons and I thought, that can't be it. There's got to be more to this. There's got to be, because this isn't a woo-woo thing. This isn't an energy thing. This is an actual science. Hypnosis is a science. And I'm going it's not like we've got to be in the room. It is nicer, I have to say, but it's not necessary. It's just nice to be there. It's the difference between doing a podcast sitting in the room with you or doing one on Zoom.
Yeah, it's different. The dynamic is different. The other one is a good way to do it when the other person is around the world, but I love to be in front of people too.
Yeah, me too. So I wrote back a very sarcastic email back to my governing body and said, along the lines of, well, if we tell people not to burn candles in their room, and we tell them if they have anything on the cooker to turn the gas off, and if we tell them to lock their door, and if we tell them to have the pets out of their room, and if we tell them if the internet or the electricity goes off, like it would if they were using an audio, that they'll wake up normally and naturally within minutes, then why can't we? 2 weeks later, I got a message back off them inviting me to a training as a trainer. We invite you to come to a trainer to learn how to do this on Zoom so you can then pass it on to your future students and all of your graduates. And I thought, oh, okay. So I paid my £300 and I rocked up on Zoom. And they literally went through my list in the order that I'd written it. I'd written 20 really sarcastic reasons why. And they literally went through it and said, make sure you send out a protocol, a Zoom protocol to all your clients first, especially if the electricity goes off. And I'm going, I've just paid 300 quid for this. Is this it? But then I got my certificate. I am certified to do clinical hypnotherapy online. And that changed everything. Because then my world opened again. The clients I had were straight on, going, yes, I'll do it with you. Oh, isn't this good? Sometimes it's better because they've got headphones on.
Yeah, they listen more.
I'm right.
Makes sense, actually.
Yeah, I can get right in their head, you know. And so that was one way it changed. Lockdown changed for us. But the other thing was because of the audio recordings, because we were doing so many and they were out there. There's a big company called Inspire 3 that Stuart had previously done some audios for. They realised that people needed more recordings and they got in touch. And they said, can you create, I think it was 40 NLP recordings to help people? We had a discussion with them and they said sort of like a medical box, as if people are dipping into, you have a medical box at home if you've got plasters if you need it, or cough medicine if you need it. Something to do with the mind though. What could they need? 40 things that people might need. And so I went away and I thought about it and I thought, yeah, I can do that. And we made things like, you know, some of them were pills, different coloured pills, a magic hypnotic mind pill that you swallow down and now you feel it in your body. Or I actually came up with a weight loss jab. And this is before the weight loss jab was even in the news or we'd ever heard about it. I made it up. Just a hypnotic jab that would help you to melt fat. Which,
we're going to talk about that soon.
yeah,
that's very interesting.
Another one we'll come on to. So, we need to do 3 or 4 of these. And so we ended up, I wrote 40 different scripts and Stuart recorded them for them. And they became one of Inspire 3's biggest sellers. Then they came back and said, can you do the same with hypnotherapy, but rapid hypnosis, so that the whole thing is in 15 minutes? That includes your induction into trance, the actual bit that's going to change stuff, and the wake up. And I'm going, well, I like a challenge. And they gave us 80 titles and said, around these titles, and then just gave me free rein. And I said, well, I'd quite like to record these, because Stuart recorded what I call the pill box. It's actually called Limitless Labs. But they had an NLP woman record the female voice. And when I listened to her voice, I was going, no, her pacing is wrong, her toning is wrong, the inflection is wrong. So I said, if I'm going to write these for you, I want to do the female voice. And we sent off a recording of mine, and they went, we love your voice. We love your recording voice. Let's do this. So for the end of the lockdown, that's what we were doing. I was writing 2 scripts a week, because they take, for all they're only 15 minutes, they take a lot of work to actually put in what you need to. Then we would record those 2. I would record them, Stuart would record them. He would do all the processing, take out every time I swallowed or coughed, or an aeroplane went past, or a chicken clucked in the garden, all the backgrounds. And that's kind of how we became 2 of the major recording artists for Inspire 3. There are now hundreds of our titles on Spotify, were you talking about, on Amazon, hundreds of them. But most of them can be got through our Inspire 3. We don't get any money for them, by the way. You can buy away, but it doesn't help us financially, because we got paid for it at the time. So.
All right.
But that's how lockdown really changed us. Yeah. Oh, I can send you a link. I've got an affiliate link to one of them.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Thank you. I want to check that out, yes.
So you were asking me before how hypnotherapy actually works, how it really works.
Yes.
I've got a simple explanation. I think that everybody can understand, but it's sort of, in simple terms, how your brain works. Now, this is much better than a radio interview, because I can actually point, and I know that people can see me, because I do this when I talk about this on the radio, or if I'm talking about it on the phone to somebody, I'm pointing to the back of my head. So in this part of your skull at the back, as your neck goes up and it bulges out, in this part here inside your brain, you've got what we call the reptilian center, your lizard brain, the primal center. Above that, there's a little sponge-like thing. Now, it has actually got a really long technical word, about this long. We call it the subconscious mind, because it's much easier for everyone to understand. We're talking about the subconscious mind. And this little sponge-like texture is your information center. It sucks in all the information around everything around you, everything you hear, you see, you touch, you taste, you sense, is always being recorded. And it's the part that was mainly working when you were a child. When a baby's born till the age of 6, this is the part that's mainly the activity in the brain. If you were to stick a child, I always get too excited by this, because we've got the videos for the training. If you were to stick a child's head to a CAT scan or an MRI machine, watch what I call the lights. When the lights are on, most of the lights are here. The lights is your brain activity. Inside the brain, there are thousands and thousands of microfibers, like a little glistening spider's web. If you're spider-phobic, they're not like a spider's web. There's micro little fibers, and up and down all these fibers, brain signals run, like little electrical impulses. So that's what I call the lights. And they run up and down, all these little fibers, all the time. You can't blink, swallow, have a thought without setting a light off up and down these fibers. You've watched television programs where they go, they're brain dead. It literally means the lights are off. There's definitely nobody
those are
home.
the signals, basically. They're sending information back and forth when you are movements or...
Yeah.
for the whole body to function.
Everything. So as a child under the age of 6, most of the activity is here at the back, okay, within the subconscious mind around this area. Your memory stores are actually inside here. I like to think of them like millions of little filing cabinets with snapshots of time. Everything has been recorded. Some of it's not important. It's back in a dusty corner. We don't need to know what we had 4 weeks ago on Tuesday for lunch, unless it became important, and then it could pull that memory forward. So everything's been recorded right from your day dot, whenever that might have been, because some people believe this is not their first life. So whatever's been recorded can be brought back forward. That's another topic altogether. That's something totally different and fun. So we're back here, okay? Now, as children, this little sponge learned by repetition. When we first learned to sit up, we didn't just sit up as babies. We didn't have the capability of sitting up. We should slide over to the side until one day we could sit. And now we can just sit. We don't have to think about what muscles you're using in your back, or we can just sit up. Same with crawling across the floor. Same with walking. It was repetition, repetition, repetition the whole time. When we went to school, they taught you how to hold a pencil. We actually learn how to hold a pencil. When they wanted us to write our name, they probably gave you a bit of paper with dots on, and you had to join the dots on for your name. And then the next letter. And once we got it, once we could write our name, they then want you to join it up. It's like, oh, now I've got to flow it and join it up. Now you could just do it with your eyes closed. You could just get a pen, you could write your name, you wouldn't even have to look. You do it.
You don't even think about it.
Yeah, you don't need to, because this part of your brain just does all of this stuff automatically. Now, under the age of about 6 or 7, our learning centre learned slightly differently, because its language is the imagination. It's make-believe, it's magic. When we were kids, we believed in magic, you know.
Yeah, it was more fun.
It definitely was. Magic is real, by the way. But we believed in Santa. Spoiler alert. We believed in unicorns, rainbows, pots of gold, all of that. And we were taught metaphorical stories that mean that. We spoke before about pantomimes, fairy tales, nursery rhymes. They're all metaphorical stories that were taught to us to keep us safe. They were to keep our little brain safe in a way that we could understand. And my favourite one to talk about is the story of Little Red Riding Hood. That story is global. It doesn't matter where you go in the world, there is a version of the little girl in the red cloak. And you could say that story to a child. You wouldn't need a book. You could dress it up. You could say she's got a basket of keto chocolate muffins and sparkly shoes. Or you could stick to the main point. The main points will always be in the story. The main points of that story were there to keep us safe. It was, don't go into strange places. Don't talk to scary strangers, because bad is going to happen if you do. And we just edit that beep out. And that's what the story meant. And our little brain got it. Rather than talking about stranger danger to kids, that's what that story meant. And a lot of the nursery rhymes we learned also were to keep us safe. This is how it likes it. It likes metaphorical stories. As a clinical hypnotherapist, we use metaphorical stories. We will take a client's examples of, and we'll weave it into a story, because this will make this part of the mind active. It'll make it listen, because we introduce make-believe. Imagine is one of our favourite words. I wonder if you could imagine. And it activates this part of your brain. And then we can feed it in a metaphorical story. Then we can put in the client's own suggestions. We would never put a suggestion they haven't given us or that they don't want, because the mind won't react on it. Your mind is keeping you safe. Your mind and your body is keeping you safe. It will only take a suggestion that is good for the benefit of the client. So we'll put in the suggestions. And this little 7-year-old at the back of the brain will analyse these. Well, no, actually it won't analyse them, because it doesn't analyse, it doesn't criticise, but it will take these and go, is it good for the body? Yes, it is. And it will start off a new fibre, a new wire. It takes 28 days or approximately to start this new habit, to start this new thought, to reinforce it. And this little electrical signal will run up and down it. From the age of about, we'll track back to limiting beliefs in a minute, because this is where most of the limiting beliefs come, is under the age of 7. But we'll just move forward for a minute and we'll go through the actual brain. The lights start coming forward. We hit here, okay, behind here, your frontal cortex, your frontal part of the brain. We call it the conscious mind. This is behind here.
Yeah, the conscious.
Yeah, the conscious. So we're consciously making our shopping list. We're constantly planning what we're going to do at work. We are consciously doing something purposely. But we don't reach here, the grown-up part of the brain, till we're about 24, not permanently. We flit in with the lights and we flit back out again. This is between about 8, 22, we're here. We're never here, we're just doing this all the time. This is called teenagehood.
Oh yeah, that's exciting time.
Exciting. That's a great way of putting it, exciting. Yeah. It's a confusing time where one minute we feel very grown up. We're very grown up, and the next minute we're stamping our feet and slamming a door.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
It's no emotion control.
Exactly. That's exactly what's happening. So we're kind of in the middle of the brain, and it is a very confusing time, and we have to remember that when we are raising our own teenagers. We're going, yeah, we've been there, done that. But they're still doing it. Why aren't they listening? Because they're feeling very grown up, but they're making really childish decisions. So that's where the lights go. Once we get to 24, they're here most of the time.
Yes.
Stick an adult's head in an MRI machine or a CAT scan, and here's where most of your lights are. They do flip back. Obviously, they're running up and down little threads, but most of them are here. But then start to hypnotize them whilst the lights are being recorded, and watch, because the lights go from here to here. So when we're going out, we know we're talking to the subconscious. We've always known, but now we've got scientists behind us. We've got scientific going like, there you go. See your brain signals. Your brain signals are now all at the back because you're in hypnosis. This is where the change happens. The change doesn't happen consciously.
Subconscious.
It's the subconscious mind that makes the changes in the mind and flows it into the body. You know, a smoker wants to stop smoking. Consciously, they want to stop smoking, but they've tried, and then they can't. But then they come to us and they never smoke again, because the change happens in the subconscious mind.
I know a few people I need to send your way then. They want to try to quit smoking. Been trying for a while.
Oh, well, that's one of my fortes. I love. Yeah. And again, we talked before a little bit before we started about being what you're on the tin. I used to smoke. 19 years ago, I stopped with the help of hypnosis. So that's why I specialise in it, because I know the difference it can make in your life and to your health. I was going to talk back in the brain about the limiting belief.
Yes.
When we're young, under the age of 7, we do suck in all of this information from our environment, from our peers, from our teachers, from our parents, people that we trust. And we trust that information that was given to us is correct, because that forms the basis of our map of our mind. You know, this will form the basis of what we believe. If, for example, you had a bit of a rogue teacher, and they said, you see this? This is called a red pen. Our mind would believe it. If I told you this at the age of 5 or 6, this is a red pen. Every time you saw this, your head would say it's a red pen. One day, you might say to somebody, oh, I forgot my pen. Can I borrow your red pen? And they go, what? Your red pen? These, your red pen. And they would go, they're glasses. It's a pair of glasses. So why do you think it's called a red pen when everyone around you, Google nowadays, what's this? It's glasses. Why do you think it's called a red pen? Because someone way back when you were a child told you it. And your mind went, okay, it just believed it. We had no reason to doubt it. So this is why everybody's map of the world is different. We have to realise that what we were told under the age of 7 maybe wasn't always quite the correct thing. Dogs are dangerous. Don't go near dogs, they bite.
Yeah, I mean, if someone say that you trust, they will believe it. But
it could be somebody could do it without realising they're doing it. I want to talk about my youngest son. Hello, Alex, again. When he was about 6 years old, nearly 7, he came out of school crying. Now, he's lucky because I picked him up from school. He could have been going off to a club or off to a friend's house, but it was me collecting him that day, and he was crying. And it's like, well, what's wrong? What's happened? And he said, my teacher said I'm stupid. I said, you're not stupid. Why?
Yeah, I've heard it saying.
Yeah.
Actually.
So you've got a teacher who is teaching you and filling your brain with stuff that you're going to have forevermore. And his teacher said he was stupid. So I said, well, what happened? It turns out they were having a talk about careers class. These kids are 6 and 7 years old.
Career class already then.
What do you want to be when you grow up? Okay. Now, you had loads of kids sucking up, going, I want to be a teacher like you, miss. I want to be a fireman or work in Mercadona like my mum. Alex, because he's my son, obviously, he said, I want to be Spider-Man.
Spider-Man, yeah.
Yeah. And the teacher had said, you can't be Spider-Man. That's not a job. You don't get paid for being Spider-Man. It's not a thing. You're stupid. And the whole class had then started calling him stupid. And he'd come out crying. So I obviously hugged him better and said, Alex, you can be anything you want. If you want to be Spider-Man, you can be Spider-Man. Why not? Of course you can. For his next birthday, we had a Spider-Man themed birthday. We bought him the costume with the glove that shot out the silly string. He had Lego sets that Dad built, all with Spider-Man themes in. He had the duvet cover, the curtains. All his friends came dressed as other little superheroes. And it was brilliant. And he was Spider-Man for the day. And I've always said to that child, you can do whatever you want to do. Whatever you put your mind to, you'll be brilliant at. He went on to do gymnastics and trampolining. When he was about 14, a friend of ours gave him a guitar. And he went upstairs and YouTubed how do you play the guitar.
That's very good, yeah. Yeah, you plant confidence and the belief that you can actually, like you said, put your mind to something and actually do it.
Yeah, so he can play guitar, he can play keyboard, he can sing, he can dance because he wanted to do it. He went away at the age of 19 to work as an entertainment rep in Lanzarote because he's been brought up with Dad being on stage, Mum being a drama teacher. All the shows, he decided he wanted to be an entertainer. And he went across to this hotel in Lanzarote and it was coming up to Christmas time and he was off duty, but they were putting like decorations around some big pillars outside the hotel and wobbling on the ladder. And Alex just looked at them and went, think I'm not those. And he ran down to the kids' costume department and he came back dressed as Spider-Man. He zipped up the ladders. He started twirling the stuff around.
There you go.
It drew a crowd. He was doing backflips. He came down, a couple of backflips because he's brilliant at gymnastics. He posed for photographs with the kids, did the other pillar, and then he just disappeared back into the hotel. About 2 or 3 days later, the big boss, the manager, came and called a meeting of all the staff, standing there looking very angry. He said, somebody went against all the health and safety. Who was Spider-Man? Nobody had actually talked about it, but they all kind of knew that Alex is probably the only one that could do backflips, but they weren't going to dob him in. But he put his hand up. He said, yeah, it was me. I'm sorry. And the manager went, don't be sorry. He says, we couldn't have paid for advertising like that. He said, that was absolutely brilliant. You've done the hotel a really big favour. What we want you to do is finish the Christmas and the season for Three Kings because they needed him for the shows. But then we're going to give you 3 months off and we're going to pay you for it. And we're going to give you 1,000 euros a bonus to say thank you. And then we want you to come back as head of entertainments.
That's really cool, and he could be Spider-Man.
It was
He
cool.
became Spider-Man.
He was Spider-Man.
Yes.
He got paid for being Spider-Man. It was a job.
Yeah, exactly.
And he actually was back home with us when we went into lockdown. He was home with us, safe, and a pocket full of money. When we came out of lockdown, he went back to visit his old school. And he went, and his teacher was in her last year, retirement year. And he went back with photographs and a bit of video, and he went, Spider-Man is a job. It's a real thing. And I'm not stupid.
That's really cool.
That's how you stop a child getting a limiting belief.
Yeah.
But if I hadn't have been there, if I hadn't have picked him up,
No, you would not have. No one would have picked it up, probably.
maybe he would not have gone on to do all of the gymnastics, the music, and be who he is today, because he would have had a belief that he was stupid.
And so fast can the damage be created. And so fast you can actually take it out.
It's one sentence to make
well.
it. One sentence to make it, 21 days to, not necessarily a click of the fingers to get rid of it, because it's a process.
Yeah.
When I work with people, I generally work with them for 4 to 5 weeks. Like
Okay,
once a
4
week.
to 5 weeks.
Yeah, once a week. So they might come to me for 4 sessions, 5 sessions. Some people only need 3, and their mind just gets it. And they go, do you know what? That's brilliant. You know, I've had insomnia for 10 years now. I'm sleeping every night.
Oh, that's nice. Good.
You know, that kind of thing. But yeah, the average is 4 sessions. They do 1 a week.
So you basically tap into the subconscious mind. you would say,
Yeah.
right? And you work and address things from there.
Yeah.
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 You know, it's interesting because with adoption traumas, it's probably one of the hardest traumas when you don't remember the traumas it happened to you. So the pain and the subconscious, all the pain is still stuck in the body.
It is.
Those are one of the hardest traumas to get out of.
It is, and I wasn't actually gonna go here because I know you said, "Oh, we'll go through the list," but I was adopted.
Yeah, me too. So I know.
Yeah, and I was actually, mine was a bit strange because I was adopted into the family. My auntie gave birth, and her brother and wife adopted me, if you like. It was in a family adoption.
All right.
But I didn't know that until I was 15.
No?
No. I knew I was adopted, but I didn't know that my favourite auntie was actually my mum. I hadn't put two and two together. I wasn't that clever at the time. But with you talking about that with the trauma, I never felt traumatised by it. I felt special. I was always made to be very special. I have two older brothers that are their natural children, but they're my brothers. And I was always the princess, the youngest as well. And I've never felt hard done by or anything. I had a beautiful, brilliant childhood. Now, let's skip forward to only a few years ago. I used to be really into horse riding. I used to have a horse that I loved very, very much. You get a very strong bond with a horse. It's, again, a form of therapy, just talking to a horse because it nods at the right time, you know. And me and this horse, we had a bit of an accident. And we were parted forever. And I hurt my back in this accident, hurt the bottom of my spine. And I went into probably, I think Stuart said it was grief.
Yeah.
To be parted from something that you love so much and the guilt that goes with it, the body holds the score. My back was in absolute agony, really agony. I got to the point where I couldn't bend over, I couldn't pick anything off the floor. I was just in so much pain. Stuart said at that moment in time, if he'd ever seen depression, that would have been it. I never considered myself depressed, but I just lost interest in anything, going out, being with friends, because horse riding had been my life at that point. And it went on for a while. I had injections put up my spine, you know, lots of things, lots of x-rays, lots of things done, lots of manipulation, but I was just in pain constantly. Doesn't matter how many painkillers I took.
Then it was a very bad accident, probably.
It was, but I think I compounded it with the stress, the strain. And then I put on a lot of weight because I wasn't exercising, I wasn't moving, and my whole life was just didn't seem worth it. Skip forward to hypnotherapy and skip forward to a part of hypnotherapy where I did an extra training course called Inner Child. To do and perform Inner Child, you have to go through it because you have to know what it feels like to actually be put through this training, because it is done quite intensely in a day where you are put through 4 age groups. And one of the things you had to do was you had to take a photograph, bring a photograph in of yourself during these 4 particular age groups. And they would play music in the background around about that age that you were. And it starts to put the memories back. You know, the lights start to float back. Now, the very first photograph I have of me was taken when I was 6 weeks old, obviously. No photographs from before. And I'm a happy, smiley baby in a carry cot. And so that's the photograph I was looking at, whilst all of this, you know, the sensory thing where they're putting your mind back to being a child, just before you even do the hypnosis part. Then they did the hypnosis, and during the hypnosis, it was a particular phrase where you are, one minute you imagine that you're in the room and you're looking down at that baby, and you're talking to that baby, and you're telling that baby everything is going to be all right, their life is going to be all right. Then they float you into the baby's body, and you're looking up at the big you, listening to them telling you everything is going to be all right. And then the big you picks baby you up, holds you, and adopts that baby into you. And that was the words that they said, that a baby gets adopted into yourself. And I broke into floods of tears. I was inconsolable. I was everybody else in the room was looking at me going, what's going on? But I was inconsolable. I had to say to them at the end, I'm sorry, but I'm adopted. And I think it's hit a nerve.
Probably it hit something.
We went through the rest of the ages and nothing affected me. One by one, everybody in the room had a bit of a breakdown where they'd hit other stages of their life. Or until it only goes up till you're 14. So it's somewhere between 0 and 14. But when I came away from that weekend, Stuart came to pick me up and I went down the stairs and got in the car and he was looking at me going, "You okay?" And I said, "I'm fine. Don't I look okay?" Because no, actually you do. We got home and at the time we had 4 dogs. And you know, if you've got a dog, they all want to be in and out at different times. I was up and down, opening doors. And he says, "Are you okay?" I'm going, "I'm fine. Do I not look okay?" Because one of the things with any kind of hypnotherapy, we always say to people, sleep on it before you talk about it.
Yeah, okay.
When you've had therapy done, because all of your little wires and your lights, as you go off to sleep, that's when your subconscious mind is really working. So I'd said to him, "I'll talk to you about it tomorrow. I've been on a bit of an emotional roller coaster, but I'll tell you about it tomorrow." Following day, I got up and I was getting dressed and I dropped an earring on the floor and I bent down to pick it up. And he just went, "Just stop." And I went, "What?" He said, "Look what you've just done. You've just picked that off the floor." He says, "You haven't bent down past your knees for years." Oh my God, I have. He says, "Where's the pain? On a scale of 1 to 10, it'd never been less than an 8 with painkillers." And I said, "I haven't got any pain. I haven't got any pain." And then he said, "Yeah." He says, "I watched you yesterday when you came down that flight of stairs as you came out the building." He says, "There was no hanging onto the rail and walking down 2 stairs at a time like a little old lady." He says, "You just bounced down the stairs." He says, "You didn't hang out onto the handle when you got in the car. You didn't go, ow." He says, "You were up and down to let the dogs out last night." And he says, "You didn't for once go, 'Oh, my back hurts. Could you do it?'" I said, "Oh my God, where's the pain?" And it was then that I really had to think about it. And I thought, when the pain started at the loss of the horse, I had no control over that. Something I loved was no longer in my life. When I was 6 weeks old, my birth mother handed me to the mum that brought me up. She'd looked after me for 6 weeks. We already had that bond, that eye to eye, that smiley, gurgly, everything. As a 6-week-old baby, I had no knowledge of why or what. All I know is that something that had been a whole part of my life just wasn't.
Yeah, the bond breaks.
The bond had broken. But I'd never thought about it like that. I really hadn't until that moment. That was the moment I thought about that. And I'm afraid it was a bit too late because my birth mum had already died. And we had fallen out about 6 years before that and not spoken for 6 years. And I do kind of regret that. But so the memory of being 6 weeks old at any time when you are adopted, doesn't matter how much of a wonderful life you end up with, there is that there that you don't know is there. I never thought I had a problem with it.
The thing is with that is like when the bond breaks, it's some disturbance in the development because the bond you already created, and it's such an important bond in the beginning of anyone's life.
It is, and it's like the death of a parent, isn't it? Because you all of a sudden they're there one day and then they're just not. You know, so mine was different because she was my auntie. So I did grow up seeing her once a year, just as an auntie. So that was mine was a bit different, yeah.
But I mean, it's like I think it's for adopted people. It's all about later in life. We can have some of them need to deal with grief. They need to be in those stages. They need to go back and actually feel the trauma and work through it, because you actually have not thought about it, and you just go along with life and think you are grateful. And you are in a way to be adopted. I'm not saying that, but it's also that you don't really think about that in maybe a little. It's usually you can have an identity crisis when you are in your teens, very normal, and then some of them have it more when they get adults, and also when they have children themselves.
Yeah, it's who am I?
Yeah.
Who do I look like? Who do my kids look like?
Exactly.
Yeah, all of that. So yeah, there we go. We have something in common then, I believe.
Very much, apparently, there.
Well, next time I do my inner child, I do it once a year. Next time I do my inner child, you can come up and come through the day with me. I normally do it as a little bit of a little group of people. Yeah, you spend the whole day with me, in and out of hypnosis, group hypnosis. It's a very bonding exercise to do.
Yeah, it will be interesting to do. I've tried a lot of other things, but I haven't tried that.
Oh, well, there you go. So, yeah, you can get on your motorbike and come all the way up and spend the day with us and see what you think.
That would be fun.
That would be fun. And it'd be
Yeah.
great to do one of these afterwards when you can go, oh my gosh.
Yeah, that too.
So the other thing that you asked me, because obviously we talked about how hypnosis works and why it works and changing the lights and changing the thought patterns.
I think we are where can anyone be hypnosed, and how does it really work? But you talked about how it works.
Yeah, they can be. Anybody can be hypnotized if they want to be. Hypnotherapy is very different to a stage show, for example. If you were to get up on a stage show, like with one of Stuart's, then not everybody is going to be hypnotized. Some people get up and go, oh, I'm going to fight them. And well, of course, they can't hypnotize you. If you're not fighting them, if you fight it, you're not going to have it. But obviously, also on a stage show, people might be in an atmosphere where there's been alcohol on the go. So obviously, you've got to get through the alcohol. But with hypnotherapy, people want to be there. People have come for a change. They haven't come to challenge me, to go, I bet you can't hypnotize me. I have never not hypnotized somebody. It's one of those, they've come to have help.
Yes,
and so
exactly.
their mind is open. Whether they believe it or they don't, if they come with an open mind, then I can help that mind change and give them what they actually want. So basically, anybody can be hypnotized. We don't really hypnotize kids under the age of 6 or 7 because they're already living in that part. However, it doesn't mean we can't help them. We just do things a different way. We don't need to hypnotize. We used to, like the drama therapy, we use the imagination. You know, you get a child to say, draw me a picture of what's going on. And they might just draw a red squiggle. Okay.
Yes, exactly.
Now tell me the story behind the squiggle. And that's where the magic happens. They can tell me a 20-minute story about witches and dragons and all sorts of stuff, but it's a red squiggle. So we can help kids with things, you know, childhood problems. Mainly the ones that come straight to mind is things like bedwetting, nail biting, social anxiety, separation anxiety from being away from their parents. That was a lot after we came out of lockdown. These kids, little ones, have been so used to being in the house the whole time that to suddenly have to go out into that big wide world and into school without their parents. There was a lot of kids, even teenagers, had that sort of like anxiety separation thing going on that we had to help. So yeah.
Yeah, it did a lot of damage to a lot of people when it comes to those type of things.
It did.
From school to be home, and like you said, and not being social, and it's not that good.
It's not. And the time when, you know, children are learning how to interact socially, all of a sudden they're just shut away. And then I think poor parents as well, you know, the parents are going like, oh my goodness, we'll never look at a school teacher the same way again. It's like they had to do homeschool and video school. And I think the good thing, my friends who were still teachers that were in lockdown, they said one of the good things was, though, if a kid was misbehaving, you can just cut the camera off or just cut them out of the class or mute them. It's like,
no sound.
Yeah, all of a sudden you've got the power, you know. You don't have to say sit down and shut up, you just press mute.
Very easy.
So yeah, where were we? Okay, moving forward a little bit if we have time.
Yeah, we do.
You were asking about, you know, like I say, I don't have to have had traumas. Yes, I had the adoption trauma, but I haven't had any traumatic things happen in my life, but I can still help people with trauma. I used to smoke, so yes, I can help people to stop smoking very easily. And one of the biggest things that I love to do is helping menopausal ladies with weight loss. I showed you the photographs of me earlier on. 5 years ago, I took a look at myself in a mirror and I actually saw myself for the very first time. I was actually 5 years ago, I was in a fitting room in the Miramar shopping centre, and what I was trying on just didn't fit. And they had surrounding mirrors. They had like one on the door and one on the edges, and it was the first time I'd actually seen my whole body all the way around for many years. And I had put on a lot of weight. I'd put on extra weight during lockdown. I think we all did, but I was supersized. And that was when I really took a long, hard look at myself. And I knew I had to do something. I tried all the traditional stuff. You know, I tried Weight Watchers and cabbage soup and milkshakes and all of that, and it hadn't worked. Because for menopausal women, it's slightly different. A lot of what we go through when we go through teenagehood and the hormones that are running around as a teenager are doing the opposite when we're menopausal. We've got all these raging hormones going on. Be careful if you have lots of menopausal women on here. Teenage hormones are back. We are slamming doors and having temper tantrums and bursting into tears for absolutely no reason whatsoever, because we don't understand what's happening to our body. And meanwhile, our body is swelling. One of the reasons our body swells is going back to that primal brain, back to being a cave woman. We shouldn't have been here. Our bodies weren't designed to be here at this age. Back to the cave women bodies, there are no pictures of menopausal women on the walls of these caves. There's no pictures of women with spears in their hands putting it through men's heads. They weren't. By the time they had stopped reproducing, by the time they were like 35, they were old and they were probably cast out unless they were looking after a bunch of other people's kids. So our body wasn't designed to be here. And the fact that we still keep treating it and doing the things with it that we did when we were 20 do not work after we get after 40. So for myself, I wrote a load of hypnosis scripts for myself. I'd already done the one about the jab years before it was a thing. And I asked Stuart to read them to me. But then it was like your pacing's wrong, your tonality's wrong. So I'll record them. And so I recorded 4 or 5 scripts just for me. And I started using those, and I started changing some of my habits, my health habits, my behavior habits, my exercise habits. I don't exercise anymore. I used to a lot. Now I don't. But because of that, I dropped down 35 kilos. It took me 9 months, nearly a year. But 35 kilos, that's 5 stone. 5 sizes smaller in clothes than I was. And I've stayed this way now for 4 to 5 years. And now I have a big group of ladies. And I run a program called, it's hypnosculpting. It's within a ladies program called The Changing Room, holds menopause things, weight loss things, confidence things, all for ladies of that age. But hypnosculpting, I've got about 100 ladies that I work with on Zoom in groups to help them with their weight goals, their health goals, their confidence goals, and their sleep. Because that's one of your massive keys. If you're not sleeping, you can't lose weight because you're stressed. And if you're stressed, your body's hanging on to cortisol.
Yes.
And you can't lose weight. It's a circle. So that's one of my favourite things. So yes, I am exactly what I say on the tin. If you had a tin of Sandie and it said inside, expert in weight loss because she's done it. Helps you stop smoking because she's done it. Teaches clinical hypnotherapy because she lives it, breathes it, and can just talk it forever if you let me, which I know you won't, but I love just talking about it. I love talking about the mind and everything it can do. So I say I do teach this. I am bringing up the next generations. I normally teach about 4 a year because it's a nice group to work with. It's manageable to work with 4 people and to take them from, we're not quite sure what this is, to, oh my goodness, this is a science. We're watching neurons actually connect and wire together on videos. And they're actually making the change. They're working with clients under supervision. And so I think I've probably trained more than 3/4 of the clinical hypnotherapists in southern Spain and Gibraltar.
Oh, wow, that's really cool. That's good.
It is great, and I'm very proud of it. And we call it the family. I call them my hypno kids. Some of them are actually older than me, but I call them my hypno kids. And we like to get them together when we can. We don't just train them and just dump them out. They're constantly in touch. If they need help with something, how do I? What can I do next? I've tried that and I need something a bit different. So they're constantly in touch anyway, but we like to have a get together once a year where I do a training for them, something special that I learn extra or thought, right, they're ready for the next step on something. So they are like a little hypno family. Last summer we had 13 of them in the garden all at one point, which was really, really good fun. When you go, it's like waiting for a bus or walking into a nightclub. How many hypnotists do you meet? You come to my house, there was 13 of them in the garden all at one point, having a bit of fun together. And that leads me on to my final bit, because the World Wellness Weekend. 3 years ago, I got asked to be involved in the World Wellness Weekend, which is a huge organisation, as it sounds. There's 170 countries that are involved.
Was it here in Spain?
All over, 170 countries.
Yeah, okay. But the event was here.
My events were here.
Yeah, okay.
But the World Wellness Weekend, they're coming up to year number 10.
All right.
10th year that they've done it, and it grows every single year. The year that Spain got involved was, I think, year 5 or 6, where one lady, a massage therapist, saw something online about the World Wellness Weekend, saying it's about wellness for everybody. It's about giving back. It's about doing something, even if it's only an hour, that's for free. It's something that you do, something you can give, that other people can benefit from. So that it's wellness for all. That's the idea behind it. And so she said, oh yeah, I'll do a couple of massages for free. And, you know, she registered on their website, and that put Spain on the map, literally on their map. So the following year, I got a phone call because I had been working with a lady. I've been working with her teenage son, and she was actually best friends with this other woman. The other woman didn't speak English, but she'd asked this lady if she knew any English therapists that might like to join in the World Wellness Weekend and do something for free for the benefit of others. So she rang me up. She pointed me to the website. I had a chat with their global leader, Jean-Guy, and, you know, said, well, what is this all about? And, you know, he said, well, is there something you could do? And I said, well, I could do some group hypnosis. I could, leave it with me. Let me think about it. But yes, I'll do it. And it's one of those, I said yes. And that's how it sort of developed. Now, I am 4 years into working with them. I am now the global leader for mental wellness and hypnosis in 170 countries to do with their organisation. So I organise hypnotherapists. They don't have to be clinical for this, but they have to be hypnotherapists, can come to me on Zoom, have a call with me. We have a big group online. And I created a script called the Global Ripple, which is a hypnotic script. And the idea behind this, the big thing behind this, is you imagine writing on a stone a word that you want to give to the world, or you want the world to have, whether it's peace or love or abundance or whatever it is. And then you, in a guided hypnotic meditation, you cast it into a pond in the universe, and it forms a ripple. The ripple comes out from that stone. The ripple effect, because so many people are causing the ripples to go. We're hoping to create a great big swell, a wave or a tsunami of peace, of love, of joy, whichever it is. So I wrote this script, and I got 100 hypnotherapists around the globe, some of them different languages. They had to translate into their language, but each one of us gathered groups of people. Some of it was in person, some of it was on Zoom, but they all had groups. And we tandemed this script for 3 days, so that somewhere in the world this script was being done, so that we could keep all the ripples constantly moving, and we could hopefully cover the world in a bit more peace than it's been in. So that's the idea behind it. So I rearranged it last year, and I made a different script, and I recorded it for them, so they then had it on their website, so that anybody that couldn't find an actual ripple to go to could hear it on the website. And then I got asked to do a short version for World Cleanup Day, which again, as it is in every country, it's 1 day during that weekend where people volunteer to clear up beaches, plastics, anything else.
Yes, I actually read about that.
Yeah, so my voice is the thank you. There's a 5-minute meditation that after they've done this, if they're part of a big group, they settle down just to have a rest and a drink of water, and they get a thank you meditation. My voice is that. It's part of the global ripple that they get to hear. So yeah, this year...
That's really cool.
Yeah, this year...
There's a lot of people involved in that.
That's a lot of people. That's a lot of people. So yeah, all around the globe, anybody that speaks English that was involved in World Wellness Weekend or in the World Cleanup Day got to hear my voice.
That's pretty cool, yeah. That's great.
So that's me in a nutshell.
It's been awesome.
So this is what I do. I love it. I'm still married to my hypnotist, but nowadays when we walk down the street, they tend to be looking at me when they go, oh, there's the hypnotist. Many years ago, when Stuart was doing the shows and he was on television in the theatres, you could see people going, oh, there's the hypnotist. But nowadays, I think he likes to take a little bit more of a back seat. He's my technical side of everything. He helps me with all the different recordings and things I do and all the websites I've got. And he likes doing his own thing nowadays. But yeah, that's us. If anybody wants to know anything more, they're curious about hypnosis, whether they're curious about personal change or just more about what hypnosis actually does, and they want to get in touch, then they can find us at the website. That's probably the best place to start. There are different self-help things on the website. There's a free audio, which is mine, which is just a relaxing into confidence.
What's the name of the website?
The website is luxtherapy.com. Lux. Lux Therapy Clinic. Haha. luxtherapyclinic.com. But on there you can get a free audio. There's a video of a breathing technique to help lower stress levels. There is a video of a 3-3-3, which brings you back into the now. So, and they're just, once you've watched the videos, you'll be able to do it. You don't have to keep watching it and doing it with the video. So it's just to help people calm the mind, to help lower the stress. And you can download the audio, as I said, for free. There's different quizzes on there. There's quizzes on there to see how stressed you're feeling, or if you're actually suffering from anxiety or depression. And there's a "Are you ready to stop smoking?" quiz. So if you've got those friends, send them there. They can take our readiness to quit quiz and see where they're at. But anybody that wants to have a chat, I always do that on Zoom. I'll do it for free. Have a half hour of, how does it work? Can you help me? Or just suggestions on how they can help themselves with things. But that's where you start, luxtherapyclinic.com.
I'll put that in the show notes as well. So, yeah. These, If someone is curious about hypnosis or personal change, so like you said, they can go and check your website. But this is interesting. Do you need to be some kind of person to do this kind of work? I mean, good with people. Some people are very good talking to people. You are, obviously. So I can understand you can do this. But is this for everyone? Can everyone become a good hypnotist?
Could anyone be trained?
Yeah.
Well, normally every year we have about sort of 10 applicants, and I will narrow it down to 4 that I think would really make a difference in the world. And it's why they want to learn.
Yeah, okay.
For me, that's a big thing. If somebody says, teach me this, it's a very powerful tool.
Yeah, it is.
It's got to be used in the right hands, in the right way.
It should. So
it's a case of, well, my first question would be, why do you want to learn this?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, why you want to learn this?
But anybody can be taught this. One of my favorite, I won't say that I haven't got favorite students, I love you all, but one of them was a young man that I had been working with, and as a teenager he'd had a brain tumour, and he'd had to have part of his brain removed. He'd spent years in hospital, he missed a lot of school, and so he didn't get his leaving certificates. He had a twin brother who'd gone on to university and got degrees and diplomas, and I think he always felt a little bit second best. And when he was having therapy, because he's such a kind soul, and he was really good with people, and I said to him, I wonder if you've ever thought that you could learn to do what I do. And he says, I'm not clever enough. And I said, you don't have to be clever. It's not that you have to have like degrees coming out of your arms. You can learn how to do this. I'll teach you. I says, I was doing a trial weekend with people. I said, come to it and see what you think. And he came and he said, you know what, I loved this. I really loved it. And I said that I know that you're going to learn different ways. Everybody learns a different way. Yeah. Even as grown-ups, we learn a different way. And I said, I know I'd have to do his slightly different, and I'd have to be a lot more patient and slower with him, but I was happy to do that because I knew that he would make a great clinical hypnotherapist at the end of it. They're all different. Everybody I've trained is different, lots of different languages. But they all bring their own special energy, their own uniqueness, and they're all going to attract their own tribe, as it were. Their own kind of clients are going to be drawn to them. Because somebody said, by doing all this training, are you not creating competition for yourself? And I said, well, no, because every single one of them's got their own people that'll be drawn just to them. And I knew this young man would be. And I knew that on graduation day, on diploma day, he's wearing the proper cap thing, and I move it across, and his eyes, that hug and that thank you. Because I know how much he lives and breathes it now. And I know how much he did. And he had so little confidence in himself. I'll never be able to because, I've got part of my brain missing. And it's like, is that a part we actually need? Probably not. Lots of people have got a whole brain and they don't use it.
Oh, not even a little bit of it. So
yeah, anybody can learn, but it's like, is it right for them? You know, what are they going to do with it? And is it right for them? Some people just want to learn because they want to help their own family. Me, like I say, I originally started to learn because I want to help kids at school, but then I realised I didn't want to be at the school anymore. But it means I can help so many people. And the more people I train, the more people get helped.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about helping people, and it's always people who need to be helped.
There is. And like we say, there's always going to be another situation, a traumatic thing happening
definitely.
in the world or in lives, and people just need it. You know, they just need somebody who can listen to them and just make that actual change for them. So, yeah.
That's brilliant. Yes. These questions I ask everyone who is on the podcast, so they are not very hard questions.
Oh, okay.
You already have done so much, so what is your dreams now, and what's your plans forward in
What's
life?
next? Oh, well, what's next? See, before we went into lockdown, my original plan was I was going to train all of these people and I was going to have a clinic, you know, Marbella, Madrid, Paris, London. I was going to have a Lux therapy clinic in all of the global places, and everybody that was in there was trained by me. But I don't need to do that nowadays because we don't need a physical place. Like I said, nowadays we can do it on Zoom. We are accessible. So what is the dream? What is the goal? To grow, to do more of what we're doing, to have more people helped by what I do, I think. To train more, just do more. Just do more.
Passion is
do more.
Definitely there, so that's great.
Have a bit of excitement on the way. I was on listening to somebody yesterday talking about the New Year, the Chinese New Year, with the fire horse, and it hasn't been around. The last time it was around was 1966. So anybody, it's coming at the end of this, February, it's coming halfway through February. There's the new change of the year. Anybody that was born in that year is in for a huge year of changes. Well, that's me. So, I'm a fire horse. So I'm apparently in for a lot of changes, a lot of energy, excitement, I hope.
A lot of good things coming.
A lot of good things coming. I hope so. I do hope so.
That's great. And do you have any new events, courses that people can be on?
I don't have any new ones coming up. Any of the ladies that want the weight loss thing, I start a new one of those every 5 weeks. Okay. So they can find me in thechangingroom.fun.
Thechangingroom.fun.
Yeah, that's a totally different website. That's all for the ladies. So if the ladies want to find out more, come to thechangingroom.fun. You can also find me on Facebook on that as well. That's all for the female things. But that's every 5 weeks, something new starts there. The inner child that we talked about, that hasn't actually got a date set yet, but it will probably be in May because the weather gets nicer.
Oh, yes.
And that will be in our beautiful, in our gardens up that overlook Lake Finwella. A rather stunning setting, and that's somewhere very tranquil and very peaceful to find and heal your inner child. That will probably be in May, but I haven't actually set a date yet. And the World Wellness Weekend is always the third week in September. It's the Friday, the Saturday, and the Sunday of the third week. So, but if anybody wants to know what dates are coming up or anything like that, we are on Facebook as me, Sandie Ashing with an IE. You can find us at the Lux Therapy Clinic on Facebook, or you can find us at thechangingroom.fun.
That's perfect. I'll leave those links in the show notes as well, so that people can find you. Yes. And fortitude means strength. What kind of methods, techniques have you used in life and in your work, jobs, when you need to get motivated, or you have, you feel maybe a little bit depressed or not that motivated in life?
Yeah, we all get that, they say the window cleaners have the dirtiest windows, don't they? So, we can't always be what my friend calls me the Brady Bunch. The Brady Bunch. Can't always be like the Brady Bunch. But I do like to ground myself a lot. I'll do like barefoot grounding. So whether that's on the grass or the soil or the beach, depending on where you are, just to go barefoot, just close your eyes for a moment and just really take a breath in. And just feel that breath and then just breathe it out really slowly. I'll do that 3 times. And that just grounds me. It lets my nervous system know that everything's okay, that we're all right. That's one of my techniques. I'd like to say I journal, but I don't. I write stuff down a lot, but then I just go, chuck it in the bin. I haven't got a book that I particularly write things into, but I do practice gratitude. You know, when I wake up in the morning and I look at the beautiful place I live, and I look at the lake and the birds and the nature, and I think, I'm alive. I'm very healthy. My family's all very healthy and all alive. So yeah, I do give gratitude. So I think for a lot of people, it's just the silly things. You know, it's always the, you know, be in nature, walk barefoot where you can, even if it's just for a minute or two. I know the ground's a bit cold at the minute, but, you know, just stand barefoot just for a moment and just let nature be with you as you take that breath.
All these things you mentioned now is very good, and it's all about the details there, and shows that if you are grateful for things, you get more positive.
You do, and it is to do with the law of focus attention.
Yeah.
You know, whatever you bring your focus to is what the universe goes, okay, or your subconscious mind goes, okay, we'll bring more of that to you. Very quick example of that was a couple of years ago. I said to Stu, I think I might like a new car. And he said, what kind of car? And I said, a blue one, because I quite like bright blue. And he's like, yeah, okay, that's what he did as well. He went, that's not how you base how you get a car. And I said, well, I don't know. He says, well, keep looking at cars as you're driving and see if there's one you like. And one day, coming back from the clinic, there was stuck in a traffic jam as usual. And right in front of me was a little blue Mini with a convertible roof in just the blue that I like, bright blue. And when they put their brake lights on, they were like little Union Jacks. And I thought, oh, that's cute. So I made a point of getting to the side of it so I could have a look at the side of what this car was like. And I came back and I said to Stuart, maybe I'd like a little blue Mini. And he said, right, well, you'd need to know if you'd like to drive one, you know, what it actually feels like. You need to see if there's anywhere that's got test drives for blue Minis. And the more I Googled blue Minis, and then I saw the price and went, secondhand blue Minis, you know, where could I get one? Where's got one? The more blue Minis showed up in my life. I would park in a car park in a supermarket. Now, I girly park, which means I park away from everybody. Lots of room, lots of space. And I'd come back to my car, and either in front of it or next to it would be a blue Mini. Nowhere else in the car. Everywhere else in the car park is empty. But they had to park right next to my car. So I'd be going, oh, I can see the inside now and what's in the blue Mini. And then everywhere I'd be on the road, there was one in front of me or to the side of me or behind. And I thought, these blue Minis are everywhere. If I get one, I'll never find mine. If I park it in a car park, I'll never find it because there's so many bloody blue Minis. I don't want one anymore. And, you know, I stopped seeing blue Minis because I'd stopped focusing on it. But you know that because we're now talking about it, on the way home we're going to see at least 3. But it is that law of focused attention. You know, what you focus on, you get. So focus on the positive. Focus on the good stuff. Focus on what you want more of rather than what you want to get rid of. When a client comes into me and says, oh, I'm stressed, I've got insomnia, I hate work, I go, well, my best question... Every client, I say, imagine I had a magic wand and I could wave that wand over you and your life would be exactly as you want it to be. You'd feel how you want it to be, and your life, your job, your career, everything would be how you want it to be. And then imagine that we met in 6 months' time for a cup of coffee. And I say to you, how's life? How are you feeling? And that's the list that I work on. That's what I want. I'm sleeping great. I've got a new job. I started a new career. I made my own business. I'm really, really happy. Everything is working just the way I want to be. I feel great. That's what I want, because that's what I'm going to give them. So when I say to people, be careful what you ask for when I wave the magic wand, because that's what you're going to get. Because that's what I'm feeding into their subconscious mind, their words, what they want. I weave it in between all the different stories and the metaphors and everything else that I use. But it's repetition. So over those 4 sessions, 1 a week, 4 weeks, their new wire is growing. The lights are going up, it's getting stronger and stronger. So by 4 weeks' time, it's a solid wire. It's a thing. And then I'll ring them up in 6 months and I go, how are you doing? And I'll have that bit of paper in front of me and go, oh, tick, 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 tick.
Everything
tick, tick.
is there then. Changed. That's perfect. It's very good. Yeah, I think that. Is there anything else we should?
You want more?
No, I think it's been perfect, and I've learned so much. It was a lot of interesting things and a lot of good stories here.
Good. Okay. Well, if you want a story about smoking, people stopping smoking.
I can have one story of that too for the people I know who actually wants to quit.
Okay. Yeah, you have to be ready to quit. It's not just other people want you to quit. You have to be ready to quit, and that might be because of a health reason. Majority of people that quit are over 45.
Yeah? Okay.
My eldest person, I'm going to tell you the story of my eldest person and show you how the subconscious mind is weird. The eldest person that came to me was just over 80, and she lived in a coastal town near here. She rang me up on a Friday evening time, and she said, I need you to stop smoking, dear. And I said, okay. And I launched into the normal chat I'd have with somebody, because normally what I'd do, if somebody wants that, I'd arrange an hour call with them, probably a Zoom call or a WhatsApp call, but I'd arrange to have an hour's call with them to find out why. I'd then set them a task at the end of that call. I'd say to them, I don't want to know if you're going to work with me or not. I would say, here's a task. It's called a quit list. And once you've done that task, you will know. And then if you do want to work with me, you'll tell me yes, or I'm not ready yet. And then I'll set you a task for 5 days, and we'll have your appointment at the end of that, 5 to 7 days' time. We won't just meet tomorrow, because I want to prepare the subconscious mind, prepare the body, rather than just put you into nicotine withdrawal, because that's not going to help you. So I said to this lady, it's a process of steps. She goes, no, you need to stop me tomorrow. And I said, well, the clinic's not actually open on a Saturday. She goes, yes, but you don't understand. You need to stop me smoking tomorrow. So I said, help me understand what's going on. So she told me the story that she'd had a doctor's appointment that morning, because she said the way she described it was she felt like she was wearing socks. Even though she had bare feet, when she walked across the floor, she felt as if she was wearing socks, as if her feet weren't connecting. Numb.
Numb, yeah.
And she'd gone to the doctors, and the doctor had said to her, I can't hear a pulse in the bottom of one of your feet. And he sent her straight down to Malaga Hospital. She'd spent the day in Malaga Hospital having a variety of tests done. And they said to her, it ended up with her sitting in front of this lovely little female surgeon who said, your arteries are clogged on your leg because you smoke, and you've been a smoker for a long time. There is a pulse there. We can actually save your leg. The arteries on the other leg are clogged as well. But if you have another cigarette, you used to keep smoking. Why do I spend all of this money, all of my time to actually bother clearing your arteries? So she was going to go to the hospital on Monday. She was being booked in on Monday. And the surgeon said to her, on Tuesday, I'm going to do an operation. You choose. Never have another cigarette, and I will clear the arteries on both your legs. Continue smoking, and I might as well take your leg from the knee, because it's going to die. Now, they had done lots of tests. They'd done blood tests, whether they'd done breathing tests, whether they knew how much carbon monoxide, how much nicotine was actually in her system. The surgeon said to her, if you have another cigarette, I will know, because we'll do this test on Monday morning. On Tuesday, I'll either take your leg or save it. You would think that somebody saying to you, if you have one cigarette more, I'm going to cut your leg off, would be enough to stop somebody from smoking. You'd think it, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, long before that too, but definitely then.
But it wasn't. Because there's a whole thing called addictive receptors within the brain, but her addictive receptor was jangling, and it was wanting to be fed. And she said, I know they'll cut my leg off, but I really want to have a cigarette. She says, that's why I've called you. And I said, right, okay. So I said to her, basically, go for a little wander around your apartment. I know you can't walk for at the minute. Have a big glass of water. Here's an audio to relax you down and put you to sleep. I will see you at 9 o'clock in the morning at the clinic. I'll come down, open up. Just me and you. We don't need reception, anything else going on. And let's do this. And that's exactly what we did. She went to bed. She used the audio. She met me the following morning at the clinic. I spent 3.5 hours with her because she's more of a talker than I am. But she stopped smoking. Completely. Yeah, completely. She went into the hospital on the Monday, had all the tests done. On the Tuesday, they cleared her arteries. She is still walking. She's walking better than ever, and she's still not smoking. And this is a long time ago now, years ago, but she's still alive. But she wouldn't have been if she carried on smoking. But that's the nicotine, that's the addictive part of the brain that makes you do that. It's attached itself to the subconscious mind. So your body actually believes it needs it. Your mind believes it needs it or it'll die. And that's why people get addicted to various substances, nicotine especially.
That's very interesting. So, but it's definitely a way to quit.
Well, that or I'll chop your leg off.
Yeah. That would definitely motivate. Come on. I would think it was brilliant, and it was so many good stories here. And I would just say thank you for being a part of this.
Thank you very much for inviting me down. I've really enjoyed it. It has been really good fun. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If you liked this episode, it would mean a lot if you liked, shared, and subscribed, and left a comment with any ideas how to improve the podcast. All of this would really help the podcast grow. Thank you for your support.